2, 1, just like
Hey,
that.
hey, you guys, and welcome to another amazing episode of Talkers Burst Doors. As y'all see, every time we come on, we smiling and having fun because we just love what we do.
Drop it in that
Because
thing.
that's what it is. Not only do we highlight and spotlight amazing entrepreneurs and what they're doing in the community, but we also talk about great and amazing people. And we're so excited because we got this awesome individual that finishes drop some gems and amazing things that he's doing in the city. So you guys, please welcome Mr. Herb. Thank you for joining us.
What's going on, Mr.
Hey,
Wilkerson? What's
good to
up,
see you.
bro? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a day, but that's about every day at this point.
Yeah.
But a day full of good opportunities too. So sometimes, you're tired from stuff, but it's the kind of tired you pray for at one point. So I don't even want to complain about it
I
like
like
that.
that.
Yes,
Like that.
he already coming in, got us smiling, all
Boom,
excited.
boom, boom.
Now. So love that you said you are tired, but it's the opportunities that you pray for. So just kind of tell the people a little bit about who you are and where you from, and then we're gonna get into that great tiredness thing talking about.
All right. So my name is Herbert or Herb. I go by either one. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am from Bessemer, McCalla area.
Ooh.
I went to McAdory High School many, many moons ago, and went to Jacksonville State for college again many, many moons ago for my undergrad and master's degree. Uh, and man, I'm a licensed professional counselor, a helper of people, very passionate about working with people. I've been in the field, in the mental health field for close to 20 years now.
Oh wow.
I been a counselor since 2007 when I got my master's degree. Before that, I was a social worker. Before that, I just worked in like different residential settings and stuff like that doing direct care. So I've worked with pretty much anybody that you can think of, any population. I haven't worked with geriatric population. That's the one population I haven't worked with. I've worked with some older people, but not specifically with geriatrics. That's like the one place I think I've avoided. Uh, but yeah, I currently work in the higher education system at UAB,
Go
pursuing a
Blazer.
PhD.
Go Blazers.
Yeah, I'll be an alumni there soon enough,
Yes, sir.
pursuing a PhD in public health behaviors. Yeah,
Congratulations.
appreciate it. And so I want to, work on addressing the mental health crisis in college students
Oh wow.
uh, by in, by doing so, like increasing like services outside the counseling space.
Mm-hmm.
With so many people needing counseling, you're not going to have enough counselors to keep up with the need.
Right.
And so trying to increase uh, options to get mental health needs outside of counseling, individual counseling.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, it's like affinity groups.
Mm.
Like we started a group called the Black Experience a couple of years ago, and it's just to have a safe space to talk and really meet those counseling needs without having to go to individual counseling if it's not needed. All right, and
Nice.
so that's what I do right now. I also work in student counseling services at UAB, so I'm a therapist. I do private practice work as a therapist. I'm a family man. I've been married uh, almost 14 years now. I got two daughters, 9 and 6. I'm a dad girl all day. You know,
Oh.
wash
Nice.
hair, give baths. Cuddle, play, fight,
Yeah.
play with dolls. I do all that.
That's what's up. Look, I love that you said that, man, because a lot of times we hear these words so much, right? Girl, dad, and all that, but you went into
Yes,
detail, the layers of what it means, what it
yes,
looks like. I love that.
bro. I tell you this. I have given baths since the day they were born. I've washed hair since the day they was born. I put them to sleep since the day they was born. Like 90% of the time. Like that is because
Love it.
that's just going to be it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So
I tell you,
awesome.
yeah. So that's just I'm all
So
about it.
that's what's up, bro. So look, one thing we like to do too. You told us kind of your background and where you're from, but we always like to go to the beginning. So as you think of it, you already told us where you was from and everything, but as you think of it, what's that first thing that led you, or was that like that light bulb that wanted to lead you into the mental health field?
Let me tell you, I remember as a kid, and I'm sure people have heard this term called empath. Uh, I remember as a kid, like seeing my mom struggle or just seeing other people struggle and just like feeling like I could feel their pain
Mm.
and wanting to do something about it, but not really knowing what to do. And so I think it's always been there as far as like just wanting to help or be a help or ease pain or something like that. It wasn't until I was in college before I realized like what a direction towards that would look like. Like, I didn't know what a social worker or a counselor was when I was in high school. And so I graduated in the 90s. And so we had school counselors, but that was it. And so in my mind, I was going to go to college, be a teacher, be a school counselor, because I figured that was the way to it.
Mm.
And then when I was in college, and I started out in an education degree, wasn't going well. A friend of mine said, you should go look into social work and kind of explain what it was. I went over there and met with somebody and changed marriages that day and didn't look back because I figured out how to get to really helping people. And so it's always been there, you know, it's always been there. Like even I've had to like really learn how to set boundaries when it comes to working with people because, you know, having that desire to do so, you know, you don't know how to like self-regulate in the beginning. And that's something you got to learn along the way. And so that's been a journey. I'm pretty good at it now. But I remember just like specific instances, like my mom just like was struggling or seeing that, you know, she want to afford something we can't, or and just wanting to just like say the right thing, do the right thing, or take something away. And so and I remember having friends in the same, you know, same way. And so it's always been there. You know.
I love that. I love that with my background too, being a social work and in the master's in psychology, as well as the coaching me and Mike have, but also our youth group. That is one of our Pacific is mental health. On it, and I love what you said that, you know, even though that was the 90s, still now people don't understand and know what therapy or counseling or social work is. So it's so much in depth and needed. And I love that you're doing on that college level because being also a graduate of UAB, that was not there. And you're being even more specific for the, you know, Black community. We're just going to be real about it because we really need it. Because like you said, a lot of us don't know. And we all grew up in that area of that need, that hurt, and that pain, and didn't know how to express it or talk to someone. So now to hear you say that, and it's still a cycle going on. It's when do we stop that cycle and that trench? It's so hard.
Yeah. And the conversation is definitely changing. Like you know, you're starting to see more over the last couple of years, more of a social media presence when it comes to mental health. Athletes, entertainers, Taraji P. Henderson is really big about it. And it definitely is changing. But I think as you talk about it more, you also end up exposing more.
Right.
And it's not as simple as, well, we just don't take care of our mental health. Like I'm doing a presentation tomorrow on mental health with like the community I grew up in. And like, you know, so we talk about stigma, but you can't talk about stigma without talking about the historical impacts of trauma, you know, on the Black community, like transgenerational trauma. And so, you know, enslavement, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, welfare and hyper ghettos, mass incarceration, like all that stuff has an impact on us as a whole. And so this kind of talks, well, the one tomorrow, like talks about the church a little bit and how the church kind of became like a Swiss Army knife for Black people, and which is not equipped to do. And that, you know, for a lot of people led to a lot of shame and you know, feeling like, you know, it's a sign of weakness to go to counseling and stuff like that. But, you know, we didn't have access to that kind of stuff. We didn't have the ability to have a full range of emotions as Black people for so long because we were only seen in one direction, which was, you know, work, produce, reproduce, or what have you, or in stereotypes. And so now that the conversation's happening, it's like, okay, and we're dealing with some real stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I see kids, man, who they may have dealt with molestation, but then their mom also dealt with molestation. And then, so that's a different conversation than just, you know, or your mom dealt with molestation, and so she was really difficult to you, or not really affectionate towards you, or somebody tragically died, and now you're being raised by that person. It's a lot of things. Or you were just raised,
Generation. That's
generational stuff.
it's so much that has going on. And it was never actually talked about a stop.
Mhm.
And that goes back to you said about the church. That was our safe haven, but also that safe haven took things that wanted to go out and wanted to stay in. And so
Mhm.
many households was built off on that. And that was one thing as a adult and being in social service. And you may have experienced that it was so hard with my family because they felt like, oh, you know everything, you want to tell us this and you want to tell us that because you have the book.
Mhm.
No, it's the gaining knowledge that I have to know that I
Mhm.
have a voice. And it's so many things in our family that has been going on that we so covered up that has affected a lot of us mentally that we don't even want to speak about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it's
and
hard.
how you perception to other people, how they're gonna perceive us. What happens in the house stays in the house.
Ooh.
Uh, so many things.
Ooh, bro.
That word for everybody.
Man.
I think everybody grew up off that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
just us, man. I
Mhm.
think that's a Southern culture combined with the Black culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Southern whites a lot of times have a lot of characteristics like family wise, or like stigma when it comes to health and mental health, like Blacks do as a whole.
Mhm.
But Blacks started out in the South, so I guess it kind of makes sense there. But it's like, you can have conversations, and it's not going to bring shame upon your house if you do so, or whatever. And that's what we're left with. Like, we're left with that burden to bear in a lot of ways, because we're aware, even at our age, is about mental health, and then
Mhm.
younger people are as well. And so you're having to almost atone for what your parents didn't have the space to do, or your grandparents didn't have the space to do.
Ooh.
And it's a balance of, like, you're almost angry at them, but at the same time you understand,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Mhm.
Like, what else were you supposed to do? You had no other option.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start peeling them layers back, and those things that you didn't understand, you start looking like, oh, wait a minute, okay. Now, when I look at everything that was going on, then it's different. You, like you said, you start
Yeah,
to
it's
understand some
different, man.
things, and like, oh, you know what? I was taught some stuff. They
Right.
didn't know any better, and
They
so it,
did.
it almost gives you the opportunity to, in dealing with it, to extend that grace to
Yeah.
them and
Man,
yourself.
that's
You know
so
what I
important,
mean?
man. That's
Like,
so important.
yeah.
Yeah, grace. The
And I
grace
think
goes both ways. I'm
right,
sorry.
extending it yourself and being that also the podcast is about entrepreneurs. And that was one of the things we talked about, last podcast was a little bit about credit. And sometimes we look at ourselves and say, hey, we didn't know, but we're extending the grace because our parents didn't know. They didn't know how
Mhm.
to build things. They didn't know too much about that education. They didn't know what was going to be needed here and there. And that was the same way when it came to mental health. They wasn't given that comfort, that love. It was something with my mom now, and I know she looks at all episodes, but it has been probably like 3 or 4 years before she can actually say, I love you. And I made it a thing for all of my family that when we leave and go places, say that. But her mom never told her that ongoing,
Mm.
nor her parents ever told her that. So that love was something that generated. And now when we talk about credit, she was like, these are things that we never were taught. The only thing what we was taught was to go to church and go to school.
Yeah.
And those are things that are embedded in us that all we know is go to church and go to school and get an education. But as we know now, it's so much more outside of that. But we got so stuck into that because that was what was educated and embedded in us, that now when we talk about doing other things, running your own business or education, we're so afraid to do it because we was all taught that that's the only thing you should know. So
Yeah, it's a foreign language.
I make that love of like with my parents and friends. Oh no, you're gonna hug me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you I love you because so many of us wasn't taught it.
Yeah. And it's not, and the thing is that, we'll know what it feels like. You'll know. Like, I remember my uncles would drive, like, from states away to come hang out for the 4th of July, something like that. And it was like, so I mean, you don't do that for somebody you don't love,
Right.
but you also need to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
remember the first time I told my mom I loved her. Like, I remember it. And it wasn't, and she responded back, and it was like, I didn't recognize it until my older brother got married, and his wife was like, y'all don't really show affection to each other.
Oh wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, y'all don't say y'all love each other, y'all don't hug. And I'm like, we don't. And I didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, we love each other. I mean, we show up. And she was like, yeah, but it's more than showing up,
Mm.
And so but now, shoot, I'm telling everybody under the sun I love you.
Right.
I love you, man. Not just when you walking away. I'm gonna tell you when I see you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's important for us to hear that and to model that, and make it commonplace for us, for us to share that with each other. And I value you. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here, stuff like that. Because, our parents wanted us to do better than them. And a lot of times meant like financial gain.
Yeah. Right.
All right. But, better is also like emotional intelligence.
Yes. That support system, that being there, your actual actions also is being better.
Yeah. So being better than them is like, or being better than me is, I want you to have financial gain and, stability, but also I want you to be good, emotionally. I want you to have outlets. I want you to, feel safe, when you talk to me or go to counseling or whatever. And so you're not having to be the first one,
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. I love that. So, bro, of course, this Talkers versus Doers podcast, right? And it's all about that doing and not just talking and really being about it, of course. So you said something earlier, right? You talked about getting your bachelor's and master's, right? And you say you'll be, alumni of UAB soon. So tell us about the journey that you're on right now. And it's got to be a place of passion with you doing what you do for almost 20 years now and still in it. What's going on right now? Like, that you talked about working there, but what are you doing now?
Man, let me tell you, this has just been a few weeks, man, and I'm receiving it and acknowledging like things are just happening, career wise and opportunity wise. Like today, I guest lectured a PhD class, not a PhD class, a master's in counseling class today at UAB, and old coworker of mine who's a licensed counselor, teaches in the counselor education program, was like, with your experience and whatnot, I want you to come guest lecture. Like, I mean, this is stuff I prayed for years ago. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, to be where things are right now, like I won an award a few weeks ago, like Spirit of Diversity Award. It's like, but out of all the colleges in the state,
Wow, congrats on that,
man. I won,
yeah. This is what we look. We pop the confetti. We pop the confetti.
Baby.
The horns going off.
But man, I've had the opportunity to do panel discussions. Like I did a panel discussion at UAB during height of the pandemic after the George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor situation. 2-night panel discussion with I think it was 7 or 8 panelists each night. Heavy hitters in the university, all Black, and had over 20,000 views, between the 2 nights. And I had to look back at it, and it's like ain't nobody else doing, when no other program was doing numbers like that.
Right.
And I hesitate to say that because I don't want to ever seem like I'm being disingenuous or egotistical or anything like that. So I really struggle with talking about accomplishments at times.
No, you're doing something great though. So it's not being egotistic. It's doing something that is amazing that we need out there. And especially, I commend you. I love to commend because as a sister seeing a Black king do it, you are amazing. You are great. So we're gonna put that out.
Yeah.
Hey, look, bro. We gonna, you want to stay humble. That we gonna put the spotlight on you, make it hot.
Hey, I'm learning to get comfortable in it, man. Because it's I've gotten a lot of recognition, got awards. I've spoken at conferences, national conferences. I've done, I helped create a program at UAB that's got national recognition. I'm doing this thing tomorrow night with my community in McCalla. It's called McCalla Mental Health. And we just, a lady from my community was like my mom's age reached out to me about people in the area just talking about, depression and stuff like that. And she
Wow.
knows what I do just from seeing me on Facebook and was like, yo, I want to do something. And I was like, cool. So we put together this thing and I put together a presentation and she put together a flyer and we put it out last week. And I mean, it just got like reshared like 50, 60 times. And the Zoom room gonna be packed out. I mean, probably like to where we can't no more creeping. And it's just like, so getting opportunities to do stuff, man, and it's cool, like, because so much stuff went into like before now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know how it is. It's always a backstory. It's an origin story in every situation.
Yeah.
And I guess telling people what you saying that, because now we're talking about mental health, we're just seeing you and how you're glaring, talking about, man, so much have changed. But also letting people know it has not always been great, because some people only see the glory on the end of just giving them a little piece. Like, you're looking like a year, but they got to think you have also several other degrees and other things you did, but you just now saying you visually see what people
just now. Let me tell you, over the last 4 years,